Yeah, so, this is part two of the Putin lies, exposed by his closest friend. Yeah, that is Chef. And, that man, the chef, he's a wanted man in the West, And for him to turn on Putin, things has to be really bad. But the thing is that with this, with the chef, all the man had to do was just continue to go all the way to Moscow, and he could change history. Because just like what they did in 1970 when they killed the Romanovskis, the same thing they could have, you could have done and go to Russia, and you understand, because Russia is always a society where people don't trust each other, So we'll continue the journey. You watch, you listen, you decide. And as we stated before, there's two forces in America. America is a divided country. It's not united anymore, especially along the race line. Fox News is the station that pay almost $1 billion for line to one of the company that sued them over the 2020 presidential election. So they're willing to lie to their own people just riches. That goes to show you that you're dealing with people who have no conscience, no heart. So don't expect them to change. So we'll continue the journey. Yeah, so that's a left-leaning channel, MSNBC, and that's normally so the left is normally weak, but surprisingly, the left is strong when they come on military now, because they believe in they are patriots and they believe in self-defense. Unlike Fox News that is rooting against America, this is a channel that is rooting for America democracy. So we want you to listen to what Fox News is saying, and then we will give you our analysis of what's happening in America, why America is divided, and why some, as there's a saying that there's a wicked man that rather burn on the whole city and rule over the ashes, and that's how these people are. So we want you to listen to the Fox News people, and you watch, you listen, you decide, and comment below.
A worrying statement this week as tensions continue to fester between the U.S. and Russia, saying, quote, "In the event of a third world war, there will be no winners, including America." Now, this comes as Russia escalates their military offensive in Ukraine. The president of Belarus, meanwhile, has confirmed that his country received tactical nuclear weapons from Russia. So how concerned should we be, especially as Putin reportedly tells the West to go to hell at the same time? Joining us now with reaction is former U.S. Defense Intelligence Officer and author of Putin's Playbook, Rebecca Koffler. Rebecca, great to see you this morning.
Great to see you all.
What do you make of this, not just saber rattling, but almost taking the saber out of its sheath in terms of Vladimir Putin sending nuclear weapons to Belarus?
Yes, this is a very concerning development. It's strategic messaging by Putin to Washington to back out of Ukraine, to stop arming Ukraine. It is driven by fear of losing this war that he cannot afford, because the outcome of this war is existential for him. Russia considers Ukraine as part of its strategic security perimeter, and it cannot allow NATO to get as close, just like we wouldn't allow China or Russia or Iran to get as close to Mexico or Canada. So that is why Putin is overreacting.
So, Rebecca, that's incredibly, honestly, terrifying. For Vladimir Putin to consider what's happening in Ukraine an existential threat, and for him to begin to talk about the use of nuclear weapons, and to extend your analogy of what if Russia were doing something in Mexico or Cuba, what is the off-ramp? We can put on screen, by the way, the number of nuclear weapons at any hand for given countries. Russia's got the most.
At the top.
Yeah, so what's the off-ramp for him facing an existential threat?
So right now, no one is even talking about off-ramp. Well, in fact, it's quite the opposite. In May, a senior NATO official, Rob Bauer, announced that NATO has switched the alliance to wartime footing. What does it mean? NATO countries are combing through thousands of classified documents, war plans, and looking for guidance on how to beef up their own defenses and how to actually fight the war with Russia. And this is why Putin is overreacting. Putin has always thought, and the Kremlin did, and the general staff, that we are seeking regime change in Russia. Everyone hates Putin. He's an unlikable guy. And that is why he has prepared this terrifying doctrine. He and the general staff, this is similar to our Joint Chiefs, right? They are looking for vulnerabilities in U.S. Communication networks, in U.S. critical infrastructure, in U.S. satellites, and this is why you see these cyber espionage, cyber attack, including on our Department of Energy, that manages our nuclear infrastructure and sets our nuclear policy.
Yeah, that reflects something we saw this week, by the way. Several U.S. federal agencies, as you mentioned, hit by a global cyber attack carried out by Russian-linked groups. But let's finish this conversation with the larger question, which I find unavoidable throughout this conversation, which is, okay, we got a man who considers this entire relationship, this entire war, this entire interaction existential.
Correct.
And if at the end of this story it's the end of Putin, then he will no doubt use nuclear weapons to remain in existence, to remain in power, to remain alive. The U.S. has to find a way for that not to be the case, because nuclear war cost, as he points out, is a no-win situation even for America. Absolutely.
Well, the first thing to clarify to Americans is that Russia is not targeting U.S. homeland with nuclear weapons, right? The doctrine was developed for Putin to authorize a nuclear strike on the battlefield in Ukraine. The problem is with this thinking is this: as wargaming shows, and as you said, I'm a former DIA intelligence officer, and we conducted dozens of war games simulating a U.S.-Russia conflict, right? And so once the first tactical, even if it's tactical, nuke gets popped on the battlefield, everybody's going to overreact, because all of these states that own nuclear weapons have missile warning systems tracking that stuff.
Yeah, and then the dominoes begin to fall.
Exactly. You just nailed it. Spins out of control. Every war game has shown
It's hard not to feel like the dominoes have already begun to fall, Rebecca.
Exactly, and we need to pay attention, and President Biden needs to sit down and negotiate. And instead, what happened 2 years ago, he handed to Putin a list of 16 critical infrastructure targets. You can't make this up. This was such a foolish move, and the Russians developed a strategic operation to defeat critical infrastructure of the adversary targeting U.S. homeland, because they believe if they can't use nukes, they can use cyber against the U.S. They consider it a non-nuclear without nuclear mushroom.
Important and ominous conversation this morning. Rebecca Koffler, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, whether or not you like Joe Biden, as a person or as or the president of the United States of America, if Joe Biden wasn't the president of America and was Donald Trump would have given Ukraine to Russia. You understand? So you have to give thanks, for the people that voted for Joe Biden and didn't vote for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is seen as a traitor. And as you have watched the video right here, you can see that since the war, not even Kim Jong-un are showing love to Vladimir Putin because of his action of invading Ukraine, a sovereign nation. And those who support Russia are just misguided, because you have to just put it as this. This is how I break it down as a person, as a father, husband, head of household. In my home, imagine if somebody just come enter my house.
Told about the war. Yeah, and I think this is this is actually important to the larger picture. We have no way of knowing how viable this attempt at a military coup is, right? Yeah. These things are so strange, and they really, they really depend not so much on military force or even public support. They depend on a kind of game of nerves and credibility, right? So we don't know how this is going to turn out. But the larger point is that, anybody who ultimately overturns Putin, because there are two ways that Putinism can end, right? Either Putin dies or there's a coup. So if there's a coup, even if it is staged by a hardliner, it's going to be a hardliner for whom it's not his war. And that's what we're seeing now is an illustration of that thesis. And this is something really important to keep in mind, because if he succeeds, it's good news for Ukraine. It's not his war.
It's not like Russia doing poorly in a war has ever led to the government falling before, so it would be the first time, of course, Masha Gesson. Thank you so much thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And then I cannot do anything to defend my home. That is the same thing as with Ukraine. So that's why we support Ukraine, and we cannot support Russia. It doesn't matter what kind of lies they want to come with. My home is my one, and my home is sacred. So once you enter my home, I have a right to defend. The only thing that I did not like with the West is that they did not want to, according to them, they did not want to antagonize Russia. Ukraine is a sovereign country. The biggest mistake that Ukraine made was to give up their nuclear weapon. If Ukraine had have their nuclear weapon that the Russians had left there, Ukraine would be a free country today. They would not have any problem. But because of the West, their fear of Ukraine with the nuclear after the Soviet Union breakup, that's how they gave up the nuclear weapon for the protection from the West. And now long on they did not get it, but they get the weapons and stuff like that. And we applaud that. But back now to the Fox News woman, everything that most of the things that she says are lies. That Joe Biden have, put 60 thing infrastructure and gave it to Russia. Any agency, federal agency or any infrastructure, everything is online. You understand? Well, we know about the attack, the cyber attack that Russia, and the thing is that America have the technology, to when they attack us in the cyber world, America can send back an attack and cause an explosion. I don't know why Joe Biden authorized that. Because look, as some people they are talking about nuclear this or that, we are not afraid of dying. If Russia wants a nuclear war, they can get it. You understand? If one little short little midget think that the world must be afraid of him because he has nuclear weapon, and the reason why Russia, China and the other countries have nuclear weapon is because if you have, again, unpatriotic white men with their lust for money sold the secret of their own country to these other countries who are enemies of the United States of America. Some of these countries, they have their reasons why they are enemies of the United States of America, and it's because of their foreign policies. You understand? But, when it comes down to patriotism, man, you're supposed to be patriotic to your country and not, to money. But that goes to show you that money is the root of all evil. And if it wasn't for Joe Biden as president in the United States of America, it would be a different outcome. And the reason why Vladimir Putin did it, he thought that he could have invaded Ukraine and get away with it because he invaded Crimea. That was when Obama, and you saw the difference is that Obama was president then. And guess what? The Republicans did not support the United States president in launching a counter offensive against Russia then. But Joe Biden is a white man, and Joe Biden is part of the old cloth where them love war. You understand? But we applaud Joe Biden for standing up for Ukraine, because if Ukraine falls, that's how the whole world is going to fall. Because we cannot afford to live in these dictatorship states. The Irans, America, because Iran to be like that, as a lot of people rightfully says. China, same thing. China is a communist country. The West could have changed that when China had the civil war, but they backed out and they never forecast what would happen. So that's why anything that you're going in, you're supposed to just go wholeheartedly. One of the things now why America is getting weaker in the international arena is because of the lies that America has been telling since. America has always been lying, but now that they have become shameless liars. When they're telling people that a man can be a woman and stuff like that. So that's the thing that America don't have any credibility in the world anymore. That's the thing that's killing them. And you must understand that, when they can lie so much, some things is just hard for people to buy and swallow. But we at the Jamaica Young Police Channel, we are rooting for Ukraine and not Russia. And we just can't wait for this war to end. People talking about Ukraine people racist, so does the Russian people. Show me which race on earth that like black people. None. Nobody like us. So I don't know what people talking about. Ukraine racist. Russia racist too. There's a guy that used to play football for Jamaica name. I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Stevens. And he said that he went to Russia and has to run like thief. And he left and went to South Asia. So nobody cannot tell us anything. Anytime Russia is using black people, it's for their own political mileage and to put themselves in a good light. Show me a black Russian. You never see a black one. America has, and some people talking about, Russia did not enslave black people. Yeah, the reason why Russia didn't enslave black people is that they did not want the black people them around them. You understand? But they enslaved the same Ukrainian people, millions of them. Stalin wrote them to death, and people forget about that. So we just hope this war ends, because Russia cannot win the war. Because as long as the West supporting Ukraine, Russia cannot win. And all they have to do is just isolate Russia. The only thing that surprises us is that Russia economy hasn't cradled as they have done to Zimbabwe. But you see, Russia, white people, so white people get all the benefits in our world, and that's why they say Russia economy is not cradling. The ruble is still strong, and with that, after a few months, Russia will be crumbling. None of that is happening. So that goes to show how the power structure set up in the world. When you're white, you're right. When you're black, you stay back. When you're brown, you can stick around. When you're yellow, everything mellow like the Chinaman. Have yourself a beautiful day. Jamaica Young Police Channel out. Yes, so we have come to the end of part 2 of the mutiny in Russia, in which Putin's chef, not only that he has mounted a mutiny, but he has told the Russian people to rise up against the government, because the government has lied to them. And basically what he's saying, that what they have done is to thief natural resources from the people of Ukraine, and they should rise up, and it's because of greed why they are doing this and causing the majority of the Russian people to be suffering. But most people, criminal, people who are unconscious, we have nothing named conscience or decency, so they're going to continue to do what they're doing, because they're just doing it to massage your ego, to let them feel good and better than other people. But we at the Jamaica Young Police Channel, we don't support unjust wars and people invading other people's territory or their land. It's just like us right here. If somebody invade the space where we are living and then invade our home, imagine somebody invade the base, invade our home, you understand, and then take over our house where we are living. Could not have that. We would have to retaliate and defend ourselves, you understand. So that's what the people in Ukraine are doing, and we at the Jamaica Young Police Channel, we support them. We do not support Russia in any form, any way, and we don't care about those who want to talk about what Russia has done for black people in Africa back in the days. Russia exploit black people for their own international marketing strategy. Russia is not a country, when it even was Soviet Union, it's not a country that believes in freedom. They just do things because they were counting the United States of America, jostling who to rule the world. And it's not like they're ruling the world with truth, rights, and justice. They just rule in the world with lies, exploitation to thief other people's resources, and to keep them as slaves and serfs. That's it. You understand? It's not like they were fighting to make other people see the light and to be better. in this world. It's just all about them exploiting people. They get richer and other people poorer and live in abject poverty. We don't what the Russians have been doing. We don't support them, and we support the Ukrainian people. And I wish that they will be triumphant and hope this mutiny is a start to something new in Russia. So at least bring back Russia back to the days in its infancy when it was trying to become a democratic society. But if you're not corrupt, nobody cannot corrupt you. So Russia is a corrupt society. We people who are from Jamaica are conditioned, cultured to be criminals. In Russia, the people are conditioned to be criminals here.